Hey, welcome back to the Blender 3 Docwalk. Today we're going to be covering the Eyedropper documentation as well as the Decorator documentation. Okay, to start off, the eyedropper can sample several different types of data in a few different ways. It can do color, as is the traditional use of the eyedropper. It can help you select kind of a gradient of colors. It can help you mesh colors and merge colors. It can help you select object data specifically from parents, different constraints and modifiers, which those are a bit more on the advanced side of things. You can parent objects one with another, and you can add constraints and modifiers like different fields and that sort of a thing. So just be aware that it can do that. We're not going to dive into that part today. But first, as far as color goes, let's jump to, let's jump over here to materials. So this is the base color field right here. The shortcut to bring the eyedropper up. So typically mouse only sort of a thing, you can click on it and it will bring up the color selection pop up here. Whoops. And there's a little eyedropper icon right here. Okay, I can click on that. It activates the eyedropper, and you can literally select anything on the entire window, including this orange outline. The orange outline, indicating that the cube is selected, to the green y-axis, to the red x-axis, to the colors on your gizmo up here. So if I want this blue right here, I can just click on that and glonk, that's my new color. So you can get sample any color within your window or on your screen. A shortcut, instead of having to click on it like this, you can just hover over the button here and hit E. See, now it brings up the dropper. I can go select whatever I would like. If your dropper is selected and you don't want to do anything, again, you can either hit Escape or the right mouse button. Now, a behavior to be aware of with the dropper, if I hover over my color button here, press E to activate my eyedropper. Okay, I've got my eyedropper. Now I'm going to go up and select the red right here, okay? But I'm going to hold my left mouse button down and drag it up to the blue in the Z. And what this is going to do is it's going to mix all of the colors that the dropper passes through. So there we go. Hold it down. You see the red appearing in my on my color button. Now I'm just going to drag up and get in with some of that blue. Let go, and now you can see it's that nice, strange kind of purple color. Okay. Now we're going to go back. This is another thing to be aware of with this mixing behavior. So I'm going to hit E again, bring up my color or my eyedropper. I'm going to go up here, hold my left mouse button down. I'm going to drag up to the blue, and say I accidentally slide over and get some of that green too. Well, let's say that's not what I want. That's too kind of just grayish of a color. So if I want to get rid of that or want to reset it without having to go back and do it again, I can just hit the space bar. Now you'll notice that it immediately turned green. My color button immediately turned green. That's because it resets the eyedropper, but it resets you, based on exactly where your dropper is. So if I wanted just the red color, I would just hover over the red again, hit the space bar, and now I've got the red. And now I can let go, and it's set. Okay, coming back to the documentation here, you see color ramp as the second entry here. It says dragging the cursor over the window to sample a line which is converted into a color ramp. The same sort of dragging behavior that I just barely described with the mixing, but when you are, when you spawn the eyedropper from a color ramp, the result is more of color gradient like behavior. And if you don't know what a color ramp is, let me just show it to you really quickly. This is what your color ramp looks like. We will be going over this, not too far into the future, but, soon. But yeah, this is a color ramp. This is a gradient. You can, select the different types of gradient velocities. So that's your color ramp widget. Pretty cut and dry. If you've ever worked with any sort of graphics program before, you know what this is. It's just that the behavior with the eyedropper when you're dragging is just a little different when you're using the color ramp widget versus just normal color behavior with the mixing. Normal color behavior is going to mix when you drag. Color ramp behavior is going to help you create the gradient. Okay, if I go up and select my camera, or I can either select here or up here, wherever. Let's just grab it here. You'll notice the camera icon appearing. If we go down here to depth of field, turn it on. Focus distance will activate. Rotation activates. The idea is to be able to select with the eyedropper an object in your scene so that the depth of field chosen is in focus. Activate my eyedropper here. I can go and click on my cube, and it sets the focus distance to 11 meters. So that was the eyedropper. Let's move on over. Okay, so decorators. Decorators are pretty simple little signals here. I'll show you what they do. If you see along the side, actually, let's make this simple. Let's pull up my cube's properties here. Okay, we've got location, rotation, and scale. You'll notice a little white dot to the right of each of these values. Now, I guess I should point out that with my sidebar open, there are no little white dots next to the same values over here. The little white dot means that there are no keyframes for that value, for that property of whatever object you have selected. If you do want to add a keyframe, here, let me pull this up too so you can see kind of how this correlates to what happens on the dope sheet. So I'm going to click this, and that's going to create a keyframe. You can see the keyframe appearing right here in my timeline. Okay. Now, okay, so the diamond or the rhombus here, it indicates that you are on a frame currently where that property has a keyframe. So if I hit the space bar, play a couple of frames over, hit stop, now you'll notice that the color is green. Green indicates that that property has a keyframe. You were just not currently on a keyframe. Yeah, so if it has a rhombus, it's got a keyframe somewhere, you're just not on it. And if the rhombus is filled in, again, you're going to get this kind of golden color in that property's value field. And that's indicating the exact same thing. That means that you are on the keyframe, a keyframe for that property. Now, interestingly, if you are using a driver, okay, to alter the values of that property, it will not show up as an outlined rhombus or a solid filled in rhombus or even a little white dot. It will appear as you can see up here under cube. Once we have initiated a couple of keyframes, it now recognizes it as being an object that is animated. Okay, so you'll see this kind of little squiggly arrow, this little S-shaped arrow. See that right there? That is indicating that that property is being driven, that there is a driver for that property. So literally, this is telling us that the animation is being driven by something else, which, here is being driven by the keyframes that we have set for these properties. All right, so that's it for both Eyedropper and Decorators. Next time, we'll talk about data block menus.